First, we're going to go over number 7. This is from the 5.6 Day 1 worksheet. We're finding the inverse of this function. So remember, f of x is a fancy way of saying y equals. So if you want to take this and change it to y equals, that's totally fine. Switch y to x, switch x to y. Then we need to get y by itself. Well, right now, the y and the plus 3 are stuck under this radical. This is a square root. To undo a square root, you square both sides. So we have x squared equals y plus 3. Then we can subtract 3 on both sides and get x squared minus 3 equals y. I don't know why I can't write this morning. So y equals x squared minus 3. And if you want to write this in function notation, f negative 1 of x equals x squared minus 3. The one thing I wanted to talk to you about is, because this is a square root function, we need to look at what symbol was in front of it. So in front of here, there's no symbol. That means that it's a positive symbol. Because remember, when we put a square root into a function, we have to put a plus minus in front of it. And then they had that little extra piece of information telling us if they wanted the positive or the negative. So because this is positive, we need to include x is greater than or equal to 0. This little note is saying that the inverse, the original problem, will be the positive square root. So because it was the positive square root, this is the symbol, the little extra information that we would stick at the end of our answer. If a problem like this started out as y equals the negative square root of x plus 3, then in our inverse answer, we would say, because of that negative, x is less than or equal to 0. So that's just about that little extra piece of information that technically number 7 should have on its answer. Now looking back at our notes, we did number 4 in our notes together, verifying that f and g are inverses, and today we're going to do number 5, verify that f and g are inverses. So basically, to verify that they are inverses, you need to do f of g of x and verify that it will end up simplifying down to simply x. So f of x is 3 times something cubed plus 1. The g of x is the cube root of x minus 1 over 3. The cube root and the cube are going to cancel each other out. So we just have 3 times x minus 1 over 3 plus 1. The 3 and the divided by 3 are going to cancel each other out. So we have x minus 1 plus 1, which is simply x. So if you had a problem like this on your assignment and it said verify f and g are inverse functions, you would need to show this work, show that you had done f of g of x, and once you got to x, you would just write they are inverses, or they are not inverses. So if it simplifies down to something that isn't just plain x, then they would not be inverses. Okay, the last thing we need to talk about is the horizontal line test. Do you guys remember the vertical line test? A function is a function if a vertical line only touches one point at a time. So I'm going to go way down here. So the vertical line test if I gave you this function and said, is this a function? You do the vertical line test. All vertical lines only touch one point at a time. So yes, that is a function. If I gave you something that looked like this and said, is this a function? A vertical line touches more than one point. So no, that is not a function. Well, now we're going to do the horizontal line test. The horizontal line test will tell us if the inverse of the function is going to also be a function. And on your assignment, these are already graphed for you. So I'm going to pause the video quick and I'm going to sketch these graphs in. Okay, so this is what all 3 of these graphs look like. Now, number 9, f is a function. This original graph is a function. Vertical lines going through this would only touch one point at a time, so f is a function. the inverse. Would the inverse be a function? So let's do horizontal line test. Any horizontal line that we put through here is only going to touch one point at a time. So yes, the inverse is a function. Number 10, the original, this thing that's graphed, is a function. The vertical line test tells us that yes, this is a function. But when we do the horizontal line test, a horizontal line touches 2 points at one time, so the inverse is not a function. Now on your assignment, you don't really even need to write the f is a function. All of them are functions. All three of these are functions. The question is their inverse going to be a function? And it's worth noting on number 10, this is why they typically do something like x is greater than or equal to 0, because if they say something like that, then they would be talking about only the right side of this and not the left. So imagine getting rid of this left side completely. If it was just this piece, then yes, it would be a function. The inverse of that function would be a function. So that's why they typically give us that little extra piece of information. Number 11, the original is a function, but what about the inverse? Is the inverse a function or not? Horizontal line test, 2 points. The inverse is not a function. All right, you have 5.6 day 2 worksheet to work on today. If you have any questions, feel free to message me. We can always do a quick live chat if you need any assistance with anything.